Hello class. Our group picked Module 6 to summarize to the class in a creative presentation. So, you want to be rich and successful. You want to be your own boss and break out of the rat race. That's probably why you enrolled in this program. In other sections, there's discussion about how to find your idea for the goods and services that your business will provide. You probably want to apply your goods and services to the pain points of the customers, as Steve Blanks would say. You will need to find your problem solution fit as well as your product market fit. This module does not cover how to develop what goods and services your business will provide. It covers how to get financing for your startup to begin and sustain itself until it can be a revenue generating, profit making, successful, sustainable business. Module 6 covers how to get money to fund you through your startup phase and beyond. According to Investopedia in 2019, the failure rate of startups was 90%. One of the reasons that a startup can fail is when it runs out of cash. Why Module 6 is so important is that it goes over the full spectrum of financing that you can access to fund your startup. Module 6 is all about financing your startup, and we will begin with what options do you have to finance your business idea. There are a variety of methods of funding available to an entrepreneur who is starting their startup. These financing factors include angel investors, crowdfunding, bootstrapping, venture capitalists, as well as debt and equity. And the final option you have to finance your startup is government support. We will go over each of these ways of funding your startup, starting with bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means hustling to find any available cash to start and sustain your business, usually from personal sources. It may mean asking friends and family members, using up your personal savings, putting expenses on your credit card, as well as in some other cases, selling your possessions. There are many successful companies that were started by bootstrapping, including Apple and Google. In the case of Apple Steve Jobs and Stephen Wozniak, they funded the development of the Apple I computer using the money they got from selling Steve Jobs' car and Wozniak's calculator. In the case of the founders of Google, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, they maxed out their credit cards in order to buy the terabyte of data they needed to start Google. These two companies were built, among other things, with bootstrapping, and think of the massive corporations they are today. Another way to secure funding for your startup is by getting money from people called angel investors. An angel investor is a wealthy individual, usually an entrepreneur, willing, if you meet their criteria or spark their interest, to invest in your company with their own money. They will give you money as a loan to your company or in exchange for equity, which means a percentage of ownership of your company. That's what equity means. Or for a condition that you agree upon. Being able to find these wealthy people to fund your startup with their own money used to be very difficult to find. But now, thanks to the internet, there are groups like Canada's National Angel Capital Organization that you can contact to see if an angel investor is interested in funding your startup. It is estimated that angel investors invest between $500 million and $1 billion annually in Canadian companies. The next way of funding your startup is by crowdfunding online. This involves going to crowdfunding websites and asking internet backers to give you money in exchange for a product or service or perk. There are popular crowdfunding websites such as Kickstarter, GoFundMe, Indiegogo, and Kiva. To show you an example of how much a crowdfunding website can raise for startup entrepreneurs, Kickstarter in 2020 raised $730 million for startups looking to get funded. If you can engage the internet and spark interest in your idea, you may be able to get the startup funding you need from crowdfunding websites. The next way of funding your business is by getting investment money from venture capitalists. They are investors that invest in your company for equity, which means a percentage of ownership. Venture capitalists are hoping to get ownership in a company that grows to be very large and has lots of revenue and profits, so they can harvest their stake in the company in the future and get many times more money back than they invested. The venture capitalist will give you money for equity based on the valuation of your company. But how do you value a company? There are 4 basic ways to value a company, and those are earnings, capitalization valuation, present values of future cash flows, market comparable, and asset-based valuation. Earnings capitalization valuation means calculating the value of a company based on anticipated profits based on current earnings. Present value of future cash flow way of evaluating your company involves a massive equation that we will display right here that will figure out the value of your company. Market comparable valuation is determined by your company's net income multiplied by a ratio of the market valuation to net income of a comparable public company, or preferably the average for a number of similar public companies that are similar to yours. Asset-based valuation falls into 3 categories: modified or adjusted book value, replacement value, and liquidation value. Modified book value just means the assets of your company minus the liabilities. Replacement value and liquidation value just mean what someone is willing to pay for the assets. Your valuation may be stated as pre-money or post-money. Pre-money meaning your valuation number before adding what the investor invests, and post-money meaning the valuation includes the new investment financial amount added to your valuation. Other option available to an entrepreneur trying to get their company started includes accelerators and incubators. What are accelerators and incubators? An accelerator attempts to improve a startup's chance of success by providing the startup with office space, professional services, and business advice. The incubator will charge a fee per month which ranges from hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars. An accelerator, on the other hand, will give a new company support, funding, and office space in exchange for a small percentage of the company. Some of Canada's largest accelerators are Waterloo Accelerator Centre, the Digital Media Zone, and Grow Labs. So what attracts investors such as angel investors or venture capitalists to invest in your company? There's a video in Module 6 where a venture capitalist lays out what he wants to see in order to invest in your company. David Rose in a TED Talk sums up what you are trying to get the investor to do. You must present yourself as the person they will feel confident investing in. It is you that matters, and how the investor judges you will determine if they will invest. David goes on to say that what he is looking for in personal factors of the entrepreneur is integrity, passion, experience, knowledge, skill, leadership, commitment, vision, realism, and coachability. The presentation that David says is best for you to give to a venture capitalist is for you to explain your business overview, management team, market, product, business model, strategic relationship, competition, barriers to entry, financial overview, use of proceeds and capital, and valuation. This is how David Rose of Module 6 TED Talk video says he wants to be pitched to invest in your company. A major factor with investors is greed, or how much money they will make off your company in the future. As covered in the entrepreneurship textbook, many venture capitalists are actually using money from pension funds, foreign capital, insurance companies, corporations, and other sources, and their main focus is on getting the big payout, which is why they invest. VCs are hoping your company will become a unicorn, which is a term that means your company is valued at over $1 billion. Brett Wilson of Dragon's Den fame, as well as being an angel investor and venture capitalist, states in a video from the entrepreneurship textbook that he invests in people, not ideas. People that understand their ideas. He has invested in over 400 startups. The next term we have to discuss is debt versus equity. Banks will be hesitant to lend you money when you start your new company, since there is a strong likelihood that the company will fail and you will not repay your loan. If you can get your company going and show revenue and profits, then the lenders may feel confident that you will repay the loans, and you can finance the operation and growth of your company through debt. That is an option your business will have when the lenders feel confident that you will repay their loans. Equity just means selling a percentage of ownership of your company for money. As mentioned before, when you start your business, it will be incredibly hard to get a loan, and that brings us to the last source of funding in the spectrum of financing: government help. There are different government programs that can help your startup depending on what category you fit into. The most helpful programs are the Canadian Small Business Financing Program, the CSBFP. The CSBFP will share the risk of a financial institution giving you a loan to secure your startup a loan of up to $1 million. The Business Development Bank of Canada, BDC, may also help you with financing if you can demonstrate your business has realistic sales potential. We hope you have liked this presentation of the spectrum of financing for startup. We have gone over all the ways you can get funding and help when you start your business. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The founders of Google, Facebook, and Apple all had to go through their startup phase. Every company has to go through the startup phase. And by knowing all available financial sources for your company, hopefully your startup will be able to develop into a stable, successful company. Module 6 covers the full spectrum of startup financing, and it is very helpful to know how to get funding, since many of us will be creating startups when we graduate, and we now know how all the available funding methods for our startup. In our group, many of us would have a very difficult time bootstrapping, since we don't have very much money. So understanding all available options makes us confident that we have access to the funding we need to make our company successful. Remember, there's a lot of funding for startups available. You just need to know how the funding system works, which is why Module 6 is so important and helpful. Thank you for listening to this presentation on Module 6. Remember, there is funding available when you launch your startup if you know how to get it. Billions of dollars are given to startups every year. Thank you.